Good afternoon. We are now filming a lesson on earthquakes and fault plains. There is some light glare on the board. There's not much I can do about that. So this first figure we're looking at here, we see the ground surface there at the top, and that funny looking pointy thing is the Charlie Brown Christmas tree, and that just tells us where we have the ground surface. All right, so you see a sloping line labeled fault plane. That is our sloping fault plane. And then you see a dot there that says focus. The focus is the location beneath the surface along the fault plane where the earthquake actually happens. And then of course directly above that, at the surface, on the surface directly above the focus is the epicenter. Everybody's heard that term epicenter before. You maybe haven't heard the term focus before. All right, we are now going to move over to the next drawing, and I'm going to bring your attention to the fact that most of these drawings today are going to be what we call a cross-section view, which means looking down into the subsurface. If it's a bird's eye view, the drawing will actually say that. Okay, so what do we have going on here? Well, we have a sloping fault plane. You see there's kind of sloping to the right, and you're going to notice that we have offset at the ground surface. And we have something up there labeled a fault scarp. So what has happened here is that we have had movement along our fault plane. And over on the right is labeled hanging wall, and on the left is labeled footwall. Hanging wall is the block of rock that is above a sloping fault plane. Footwall is the block of rock that is below. In this case, the hanging wall, the block on the right, the block above the sloping fault plane has moved down. We will refer to this later as a normal fault. Anyway, we have offset here, vertical offset. We now have the ground offset. That's given us something called a fault scarp. We'll look at a fault scarp in another drawing. Moving on to the next drawing. Okay, here we are making an attempt to explain hanging wall and footwall a little bit better. So, you have a sloping fault plane. In here, it looks like we have taken the rock on either side of the fault plane and kind of just pulled it apart. You don't really have this in nature. Because of gravity, you don't really have these gaps like this, but this will work for illustration's sake. Now you see there I have two stick figures. I have two stick figure rock climbing people, and up there at the top of the hanging wall, I'm going to restart this. I might be out of room on my